Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Aladdin's Castle here. I am bringing you guys another movie series. Today I will be covering The Sword in the Stone, a 1960s classic movie that is based off the King Arthur storyline. A lot of people knew when they were younger, or even before they were even born. But it's a very classic Disney film that not many people remember, but it is pretty iconic, especially in the Disney parks. They even have the king sword inside of the Fantasyland in the parks that you could pull out. And that's pretty much the infamous scene of Arthur becoming a king. I'm not going to give too much of a rundown on the plot. I mean, it was based off of an England king who passed away, and they were trying to find a successor. And there was a young boy named Arthur who was eventually trained by a powerful wizard called Merlin, and he was training him to become, this future king, possibly, or at least be able to lead and be something special inside, their countryside. And Merlin was pretty much from like the future. I think he was a time traveling wizard. He brought his partner Archimedes, which is an owl, to pretty much assist him and kind of guide Arthur along the way. And then they also meet other people like Madame Mim, who is basically like a rival to Merlin. She challenges him, and they kind of duel and kind of battle with different animals, which is pretty cool to see. But yeah, basically, yeah, Mim transforms into like a dragon, which is, I guess, against the rules. And then Merlin transforms himself into like a germ that infects Mim. So that's pretty hilarious. And then eventually, throughout the war and everything that's happened throughout the land, it turned out that Arthur was the chosen one to pull the sword out of the stone. And essentially, he became the king, and all of the people, all the supporters, came out to support the young king, along with Merlin, who came back from a vacation, you could say, and Archimedes also for supporting him. So, pretty cool film. I forgot a lot about the details, but I wanted to go back towards it because this set actually supported the Merlin and Goat package and the Mim package as well from Sword in the Stone. So it is mostly an Amethyst deck. There is some Amber in it. I mean, you could build this a bunch of ways because most of the shell is going to be Amethyst. But we're just going to go ahead and include the Amber for some potential draw power and some recursion, which you'll see in a bit. So, all right, we are going to go ahead with the 1-drops. We are starting off with the owl himself, Archimedes. He is a vanilla 2/2 talking owl. He was one of the highlights of the film itself. Next, we are going to go with Olaf. He is a 1/3. Just like in the meta, you'll see a lot of 1/3s in the game, so it's hard to get rid of early unless you play like a rush character that could get rid of him with 3 attack. Next is a kind of like a magic term, Befuddle, one of Merlin's magician magic power type moves. Return a character or item with a cost 2 or less to the player's hand. So you can bounce things if you're sitting kind of behind on the character count. You can kind of catch up by bouncing back a character on your opponent's side back to their hand, so like a Simba, so that you could trade into their other lower drops, or even an item against like a popsicle deck. You could do that so that they don't get some of the benefits off of their items. Onto the 2 cost.
Can you make me a prince?
Start seeing some of the transformations. We got Madame Mim's Snake. When you play this character, banish her, return another chosen character of yours to your hand. So a lot of people seeing this package already is the bounce package, is pretty much exerting, questing, bringing back those cards back to your hand, so you could either quote-unquote protect them, so you could play them next turn, or you could play powerful effects later on, or some effects gain effects when they leave play. So this is the bounce mechanic idea, is just using cards like Madame Mim to kind of move those cards around. Next, I run 2 squirrels. You don't really see this card often, but it can help in certain situations. When you play this character and when he leaves play, look at the top card of your deck, put it either on the top or bottom of your deck. So you're kind of semi-scrying to see what is your next card draw. If you need a certain like particular card to hit your curve, or if you need certain ways to ink, if you have a handful of uninkables, it's a great way to kind of move things around. So he's there. He's not really, that impactful, but it does help in certain situations. Next is to Pinocchio. Pinocchio is good for the aggressive play. If you're going against a slower deck like Ruby, Sapphire, Popsicle, you could try to put this out and kind of bounce it back a couple times before they get their removal package out, or also against Ruby Amethyst, unless they're running like Teeth Inhibitions. Just got to watch out for that. And then, of course, the Legend of the Sword and the Stone. This is an action and song card. Chosen character gains +3 challenger this turn, which a lot of these cards do have that challenge theme, which kind of makes sense. I mean, you are, King Arthur, and you are wanting to challenge a lot of the characters, just like in the film. They're going through war, and this is the sword that symbolizes his power as a king. Of course, 3 cost. Arthur himself. Wizard's Apprentice is him when he was studying to be a king. Whenever this character quests, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to gain 2 lore. So you could gain a lot of lore with this card. This is usually seen in like a lot of the aggressive builds, like Ruby Amethyst aggro. So you could play like a goat, for instance, gain a lore, quest here, gain a lore, and then that character that bounces back to your hand, you gain another 2 lores. So mid-game, late game, you could kind of just seal games by just questing with Arthur, depending on what you have on the field. But most people should know that by now because it's already the end of the meta, and I'm sure people are already a little tired of the purple package. Madam Mim Fox, she replaces one of your characters. She gains Rush. It's one of the few ways to get rid of those big bodies, especially with 4 defense, 3 defense. She could survive a lot of those bodies early on. Another card for those big challenge matchups. You have Merlin Crab. When you play this character, when he leaves play, chosen character gains +3 challenger this turn. So you'll see a theme of being able to challenge your opponent's characters, but also questing while having like Goat on the field or Arthur on the field too as a threat. But definitely the challenge mechanic is strong in this build. Then I ran 1 Gruesome and Grim. This is a action song from Mim. Play a character with a cost 4 or less for free. They gain Rush, and at the end of the turn, you can banish them. So it helps in some situations. I do run the 5-drop Mim that does pretty much the same thing. But you could sing with this one, and you could bring out like your 4 cost to either draw or gain lore, which you'll see in a bit, and then they're pretty much banished. But it helps you catch up on, like, if your opponent has a lot of cards that are exerted and you need just ways to kind of clear the board. Giving one of your cards Rush is just so powerful, and getting effects out of it too is also a plus. Next is a Sorcerer's Spellbook. Of course, gotta have this card there too. I didn't want to run too many uninkables, so I have it at 1, but you exert it, pay 1, gain a lore. Real simple. If you're not going against Steel, your opponent has to really put some pressure on you. Otherwise, you're just going to gain lore every single turn. On to the 4 cost. We run 4 Rapunzels. She's also very good for drawing cards. You could just challenge some of your opponent's big characters, and if they survive, you could just heal 2, 3, draw 2, 3 cards off of that too as well. She is no stranger to the format of Lorcana. Next comes more of the 4-drop package. You got Merlin Rabbit. When you play this character or leave play, you draw a card. Simple. Play that for free with your song card. And then gotta have the Goat. I mean, Goat's won me so many games. He's got me to be able to pressure so many other games too as well. When you play this character, when he leaves play, gain a lore. So you just bounce this back, bounce it with Arthur. Your opponent just kind of really wants to get rid of it right when they see it too as well. Just because if the more he stays in play, the more you have chances to bounce it and gain more lore. Of course, you got to run Merlin. He is the wizard, time-traveling wizard here who helped out Arthur. Whenever one of your other characters is returned to your hand from play, this character gets +1 lore this turn. Doesn't really happen too much, but I mean, he does have 5 defense, so he can survive. Usually he's, questing for 2, but he's just there for the flavor of the movie. Next, we run 2 Hades just for the recursion. You could kind of get back your Pinocchios, you could get back your Mims, you could get back your Arthurs, your draw cards, your goats, anything that's really powerful in the situation at the moment. Hades is really well known for that. Next, I run 3 Mana Mim, Rival of Merlin. She has a very interesting effect on top of her being able to shift for 3, which is pretty cool. You don't see that too often. You could exert her, play a character with 4 costs less of free, and then they gain rush at the end of the turn. And then you banish them at the end of the turn. So you could play your 4-cost goat, 4-cost rabbit, draw, challenge into another character, and then get your effects like that. Pay for free, and then play another 4-cost character. So she's very good to kind of get some stuff on the board if you want to clear things. She gives your characters rush. Next, I needed some cards that could go against Steel, and Eudora is one of them. It's really hard for like Amber Steel to get rid of this. They're gonna have to really challenge a lot of people into her. So she has that 9 defense, which is strong, so she could kind of stick on the board. So she's good against certain matchups, but I do like her for that big body. Next, I run 6 Yzmas. She's one of your few cards that have like targeted removal. When you play this character, shuffle another chosen character card back into the player's deck, and then that player draws 2. So you could either use it on yours or theirs. You could shuffle in your own goats to gain a lore and then draw 2, shuffle in your rabbit to draw 3, stuff like that. It's really powerful. Then rounding off the high-end stuff, you get 2 Ursulas. Ursula's just very powerful. Your opponent loses a lore, you draw a card, and then she quests for 3. Really hard to get rid of her unless you have targeted removal too. So she's big body. And then you gotta play the Madam M Purple Dragon. Never really used her in playtesting. It's come up a couple times, but late in the game, your opponent has Hades, your opponent has Be Prepared, your opponent has Maleficent, so it is hard to keep this on the field the whole time. But it is very powerful because it has evasive, so it could challenge other evasive cards. Or you could just quest for 4, which is very, very powerful too as well. But yeah, that is the shell of the deck. Pretty much, it's just like the Amethyst package, just added with more of the supporting characters, like in the animals from the movie. And then of course you could mix this up with any other ink combination. The amber stuff I like for the draw and kind of bringing back cards, and then the bigger bodies. But you could play this obviously with Ruby. That's in the meta as well. But the shell is there. The Sword and Stone has so many cards for Amethyst. If you guys are looking for a budget build, here are a couple options because there are not too many cards that are pricey besides the Rapunzels and maybe the Ursulas. Ursula's like maybe $12. So if you're looking for like a substitute for those cards, I would probably recommend the Stitch package. Stitch is still really good in Amber, especially if you're running this Amber build. You could draw cards out of this, so you could technically replace like a Rapunzel in a way, but still quest for 3. So you have that threat of doing that. If you miss the draw engine 2 from Rapunzel, you could also run Maleficent and Friends on the other side. You do run a good amount of 3-drop characters, so this is just a cheap way to kind of gain card advantage. You could still use your other cards like Crab to give Maleficent like Challenger +3, or use Madam Mim to play her for free and gain rush, so you could still draw out of that. So stuff like that. And then more recursion, you could always run more Hades loop to kind of bring back your key pieces, your goats, if you just want to keep playing those over and over again as well. But yeah, that is the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. I have one more movie coming out for the final part of the series for set 2 for my movie series. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for all your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and we'll see you on the next one.